2023 is coming to a close, but before we start talking about some of the best movies of the year, I thought it'd be fun to talk about some of the worst movies of the year. I haven't done this in like 4 years, and so I thought it'd be fun to bring it back. Maybe give you guys a word of warning before you go watch some of these. Maybe check your expectations before you start watching these. So I don't want to waste any more time. Let's talk about the worst 10 movies of 2023. I didn't have the highest expectations for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I mean, it's the first one without Spielberg. Harrison Ford is like ancient at this point. But at the same time, I did have a little bit of hope. James Mangold is a great director with a great track record. It's an iconic character. And while it's enough fun for a one-time watch, it's just really, really messy. There's no visual style, the conflict is largely uninteresting, and there's not really a justification for its massive budget other than COVID protocols. There's just not much that's memorable about this movie other than the fact that they time travel. Oh, by the way, they time travel? Taika, we had such a good thing going. I'd been hearing about this movie for like 3 years, kind of waiting for it to come out, and by the time it actually did come out, I had just lost a lot of my interest in this movie. I wanted this movie to be good, but I just found it to be bland and forgettable. It lacks a lot of the emotion and the heart that the best sports movies have. It feels like it's trying to copy the things that Ted Lasso does really, really well, but it just falls really short here. It feels like a movie that maybe your mom might like, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. Sisu had the potential to be a awesome, fast-paced, balls-to-the-wall action thriller, but it committed the cardinal sin of action thrillers. It was slow. This movie just started out really slow for me, and no matter what it did, it just never did enough to reel me back in. There are some cool action bits here and there, some cool sequences, but it's nothing that I haven't seen done better in other movies, and so it was all kind of a wash. I will say, it does feel like a movie that Quentin Tarantino would enjoy, so take that as you will. Wish is such a whatever movie. It's not particularly great, it's not particularly awful, it's just kind of lifeless and forgettable, which is not what you want from an original Disney animated film. The songs are generic, the villain is enjoyable enough, but the conflict is just resolved way too easily. Oh, and by the way, Disney, spoilers ahead, the worst way you can resolve your conflicts is by the characters believing in themselves really hard. You do it a lot, so please stop. My sisters really enjoyed it. They're like 9 and 6, but they enjoyed it. So you got that going for you. Similar to Dial of Destiny, Shazam! Fury of the Gods was a movie I had a fun enough time watching in the theaters, but the second I stepped foot outside of the theater, I just kind of forgot everything that happened and I just stopped caring about it at all. I think it's a harmless background movie, or if you just want some mindless superhero action, it's fine for that, but it genuinely doesn't contribute anything to the superhero genre or the DC universe as a whole. I think the biggest downfall about this movie is that it loses the sense of identity that the first film had, and it wore that sense of identity really proudly. This one, it just kind of sheds it and becomes a really bland, forgettable superhero film. Disney. Respectfully, what the heck? Why is it that they claim 5 slots on this list? 5. And if you count Next Goal Wins, which is from Searchlight, which is under the Disney umbrella, you have 6 slots. What are we doing? This movie honestly wasn't the worst thing in the world. It was just uninteresting, boring, unfunny, and just not good. Lakeith Stanfield and Owen Wilson have really good chemistry together, though, and they are really, really funny in this movie, and I wish that they were in a better comedy than this one. But you get what you get. I don't know. I just thought it wasn't completely thought out. I think the script needed a few rewrites. The potential's there, and it's not unbearable, but I just really didn't get anything out of it either. Listen, if a Marvel movie makes me see Thor: The Dark World in a more positive light, that's bad. I bet a lot of you probably expected this to be lower than Ant-Man 3, but it's not, and I'll tell you why. The one reason why this movie is above Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is Iman Vellani. She is great. She brings so much energy and fun to this movie. Everything else sucks. There are two completely idiotic and childish bits that made me want to slam my head against the IMAX theater walls. I couldn't take it. It was so bad. I just don't really have the words to describe how I accurately feel about this movie. But at least I enjoyed it more than... I really wanted to like this movie. I really wanted to like it. I wanted it to be good, but it was bad. It was so bad. It was so bad that it was laughably bad. Like, how did Marvel greenlight this? The thing that drives me up a wall with this film is how inconsequential it is to the entire MCU. Like, nothing happens in this movie that changes anything about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The characters, they just... At the start of the movie, it's kind of the same situation they're in at the end of the movie. Nothing really changes. So nothing happens in the movie, but at the same time, it is so jammed full of pointless side plots and pointless storylines and side quests, and when you take a step back, it's all completely pointless. There's no point to any of it. The icing on the cake is the Jonathan Majors situation, and now that he's fired from the MCU, just adds to the total dumpster fire that this movie was. I wasn't really a huge fan of the first movie. I had a fun enough time when I saw it. It was just a lot of dumb fun. And so maybe I thought that I would get that same kind of dumb fun kind of vibe from the sequel. But unfortunately, all I got was all of the dumb and none of the fun. Every character here is unbelievably stupid. They make the worst decisions in every single situation ever. And it's just so dumb to watch. And it's not even about the Megalodon most of the time, which is the actual namesake of the movie. It was just boring and idiotic, and I hate thinking about this movie. Listen, I knew this was going to be bad. I knew this was going to be bad, but I went in with the slightest bit of optimism that it would at least be entertaining, that it would at least be fun to watch. No, it wasn't. Unfortunately, my curiosity got the best of me, and yeah, it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my entire life. Hands down. Probably the worst. I'm just truly at a loss for words how this got made. Like, why did somebody think this was a good idea? There's no point in making it. It's not trying to say or do anything interesting or creative. I would go to say that it has no artistic merit. It is a nothing movie. It is pointless. And to my absolute shock and horror, they're making a sequel. What are we doing here? So there you have it. Those are my picks for the worst movies of 2023. That's it. That's the end of the video.